If this is your first time here, welcome. During our shows, we interview successful entrepreneurs and investors to spread knowledge, advice, and actionable tactics to help others in the pursuit of financial freedom. We discuss successes, failures, systems, motivations, experiences, and key lessons learned along the way in the hopes that these stories help you along your journey. Tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice. If you've been here before and like what you've been hearing, please subscribe, share with friends, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That goes an extremely long way for us. It's simple. Just click on your podcast app, type in our podcast name, The Weekly Juice, click on the reviews, and let us know what you think. The more ratings we get, the more eyes we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you all with high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod for daily content and personal finance tips to assist in your journey towards financial freedom. Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. This week, we have a special bonus episode. So today, Corey and I are going to walk you through a few updates on our end. And then we also sent out a request for questions, whether it's a unique scenario or questions that investors have in our network. And we want to answer them for you. So we're going to dive in, explain pretty much how we would tackle each scenario, and hopefully you get some value out of it.
Yeah, what we figured we would do is we've kind of built a nice network of investors here, and we figured that everyone has a specific scenario that they're dealing with. Like something's going on, maybe they're stuck in analysis paralysis, they're trying to figure something out. We figure, ask us some of your questions, we'll go to our network, we'll get some advice from the people that we get advice from, and kind of give you our own spin on it and just tell you what we think. And hopefully it provides value because, believe it or not, a lot of people who are going through this real estate investing process have a lot of the same questions. So we think some of these questions that we picked out can really help a lot of people. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit about kind of where we've come over the last couple months. I know we've had a couple issues on the rental side, not big issues, but just things we should talk about.
Yeah. We've had about $5,000 worth of capital expenditures happen in the first 3 months of our newest duplex. So we had it was a hot water heater. Oh, we didn't even talk about, we had the fire department called, right? We had a fire department called to our house. There was gas. The carbon monoxide thing was going off. But one of the good things is you and I kind of have this thing where we try not to go to the property if we don't have to. And through all of this stuff, we didn't have to leave our homes. We've built the network of handyman. We've built the network of contractors. So we didn't even need to leave our homes. We did it all on the phone and got it all figured out.
I think the funny thing is, like, if we can make it through our first rental together with the fire department being called within the first 30 days and a fire engine showing up to the rental and us being an hour away from it, at least you guys can make it through.
100%.
So long story short, there was a gas leak due to a couple different things.
The valve on the hot water heater.
Valve on the hot water heater. So in all, like after sending ample people to go out and check it out, we had to replace the hot water heater, but also the oven.
Because the oven had a leak in it too. So it was interesting that both of these things happened at the same time. They're kind of like cross-related in a way. But one of the things that we took into account when we made the decision to replace these items as opposed to repair them is that we looked up how long do hot water heaters last. And they're generally like 8 to 12 years. And this one was 9 years old. So we're saying, okay, we're going to send someone out there, $300-$400, try to fix it. Same shit might happen again. No, we got a new one. Ended up being $1,500 for that. We got the oven was also 10 years old. And we're like, maybe we could have rigged it, but we figured let's just get the brand new oven. Let's take the capital expenditures out at the first, and then we'll kind of preserve our investment over the long run.
Exactly. It's a long-term investment at the end of the day, rather than playing it by ear and getting calls over and over for the next 12 months on random stuff. We already were used to spending money. We just dropped X amount, a lot of money
to get
into the property. So it's like, you know what? Let's just rip the Band-Aid now, get it over with. Luckily, the most important thing to note here is we ran the numbers accordingly. And Corey's our big numbers guy here. So he ran, kudos to him. He factored in capital expenditures into the deal before we bought it anyway. So we had the money set aside. We were ready to go. a lot of people may be in a different situation if they don't run the numbers properly, and you get into a bind where you're like, oh, I don't have $3,000 to spend on capital expenditures right away. So I have to Jimmy rig it for a couple months until I save that cash flow up and move forward. But I'm thankful for you for doing that.
Yeah. I mean, we like to be conservative. We want our deals to work out in the long run. And honestly, we don't look at CapEx as like this looming bad thing. It's like, okay, you know how long things are going to last. It's not like a 3-year-old water heater broke. It's a 10-year-old water heater. So we need to get a new one. And then we're like, all right, we got this out of the way. All good. The other unit calls, hey, Corey, I have no heat. Or Corey and Ryan, no heat. It's like the day before Christmas. And we're like, it's cold. We're in New Jersey. So we had a couple people go out there. Turns out we had to replace the furnace. So it was an expensive couple months, but the furnace was 19 years old. We knew it was coming. Kind of when we went into the property, we did our inspections. We said, can we make it a couple, like 2 or 3 winters? Nope, you can't.
If you have a good realtor, when you're going through the inspections and the walkthroughs, they're going to point these things out to you, or they should. It's like, hey, listen, just a flag here, guys. Like, you're saving X amount on this deal based on these
coming
3
to an
different
off
things,
market and
but
stuff.
Coming to the off market deal. I'll cut my sellers
the commission for the commission, yeah.
But just know, like, okay, hey, the roof has been replaced recently, but just know the furnaces, those could go at any minute. The hot water heaters could go. Do you still want to move forward with this? At least he called it out. So we were praying and hoping we could last a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And of course the dominoes fell how they did.
But that's just why you run your numbers the way you do. And we use 6% for capital expenditures, 6% of the rent, 6% of the rent for maintenance, and then 6% for vacancy. And we feel like 18% right there, like we're covered and we have it set aside and we're comfortable replacing these things and moving forward based on the fact that we're going to be good for the next X amount of years.
If we have a beginning listener here or beginning investor, can you just explain those 3 things a little bit more granularly? Like the 18%?
So essentially we're using those figures as a percentage of the rent, right? So let's just say your rent's $1,000. You want to take every single month, you want to set aside, if you're using 6%, you want to take $60. I got that right? Yeah. $60 for maintenance, which is just the day-to-day things that happen when there's a leaky faucet. You have to send a handyman over there. $60 a month. This is monthly. $60 a month for capital expenditures. You put that aside for when you need to replace 7 windows, right? If they're really old. You put aside $60 a month for when you need to replace a hot water heater. That's capital expenditures. And then vacancy in between when your unit is being, the lease is up and you have to rent it out. Right now, it's a pretty hot market. People are filling them in our area pretty quickly, but you may go for 30 days, 45 days. So you need to have that buffer. So we tally it all up. It's 18%. And every single month that doesn't get touched. That is not involved in our cash flow number. Then you can talk about property management expenses too, which is roughly 8 to 10%. Right now we're self-managing, but those should be factored in as well. So long story short, we had a lot of capital expenditures up front, but that doesn't deter us. And I think that a lot of people can put their head in the sand and say, I can't believe I got in this deal. But here's the thing. You have a new furnace. You should be good for a while. There's only so many things that can go wrong in a property.
Right.
It's not like it's going to get blown over. I mean, I guess you could have a tornado, but you factor in how likely is it that your place is going to get struck by lightning. Right. Pretty slim.
And I just think it's very important for people to note, to mark those. That's just our rule of thumb, our conservative rule of thumb when we're running the numbers. So, but it's worked out. Like in the grand scheme of things, that will help you not have to come out of pocket for big expenses.
Yeah, or Rob and Mary to pay Paul with different properties, right? You want to align your properties and go. Right now, we have a bank account for each property. Eventually, as we move forward, we're going to be putting more properties in a specific bank account, but you have to run your income expense tracker every month and know, at least we feel like you do, and know how much is coming out, how much is coming in. And that way at the end of the year, you say, oh, we thought we were going to make $600 a month in cash flow in this property. We ended up making $526. We were pretty good with our numbers, right? So then you cross-reference what you projected with what the actual are. And that way, how to move forward and how you can use percentages to run numbers on future properties.
So running the numbers is extremely important.
Yep.
So also, I think we should transition now to we also transition to a new property management software to help us. So we were going through and we created a bank account together and we were accepting a lot of different types of payment, whether it was Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. And we just made it, we thought in the beginning it was a good idea just to make it flexible, essentially. But we do have one Section 8 tenant, so we get half the rent direct deposited into the checking account. But also we needed to collect the other half. And so we let her pay in whatever way she wanted, essentially, out of those three. And our other tenant in unit A, we let him have the same flexibility. So we were trying to get everybody on the same page. We did a lot of research and we found a company called Rent Ready. And essentially Rent Ready is a landlord tenant software that empowers landlords to easily manage their properties themselves, but also make it stress-free and affordable for everyone that's paying their rent. So essentially what we did is we linked our rental property up and added each tenant to their specific unit. And then basically all they have to do is set up their ACH credit checking account, and it's automatically deducted from that account. It charges them $1 a month.
Yep. And it's a pretty cool app, and it's pretty seamless, like for these transactions. So far it's working. Rent Ready is typically $9 a month. And there's also some added features that, we can talk about in later episodes as we learn more about it. But we have a promo, don't we?
We do have a promo. So if you do your research and you start digging Rent Ready and like it a lot, we click the link in our bio. We have a specific link where if you click it, you get $50 off your first year if you pick the annual plan.
And if you want to do some math there, right? So it's $9 a month. That's $180 a year. $50 off is like roughly half your payment for the year. So it's definitely worth it.
Honestly, to spend roughly $50 a month for this software, it's a no-brainer. It's super. I mean, for us, it was
$50 for the year. You're saying
for the year.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's monthly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think also you can do maintenance requests on there. You can submit like maintenance tickets, and
the coolest thing is when we always wonder, like, hey, are we going to get rent? Like, it's the first. Are we going to get rent?
Yeah.
You log in and you can send push notifications to the tenant. They have an app, like a specific app for tenants.
There's a tenant app and an owner app.
And a landlord app.
Yeah.
So it's really cool where it'll pop up on, if they're not logged into their portal to pay their, essentially their bill, they're going to get a notification on their phone, rent's due.
Yep.
So it's awesome. It's just very, very handy because everyone's on their phone lately.
Yep.
And it's mobile. And Rent Ready, they're getting more progressive as time goes on. They keep adding more features. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and you want to keep this process as seamless as possible. You want it to be, we're going into a digital world. You do not want to be going around collecting cash from your rental properties. That's taking time. That's buying you a job, not getting you off the treadmill and doing the things that you want to do. I.e., us not having to go to the property when there's all these maintenance problems. If you buy yourself a job, you're the one going there and fixing everything. We feel like our time is better spent talking to investors, going out and finding new deals, creating connections. And we can also talk about that, how we kind of segue into we're meeting with some private money lenders here because we're trying to expand our portfolio and our business. And we had a really great meeting last week with some private money lenders who have kind of this open line of credit. We're building rapport with them. We're going to walk through some of the rehabs. So Ryan and I are going to start getting into some more Burr properties soon. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of going to elevate our business and help us scale.
What's important is that both of these private money lenders, it just happens that they're brothers and business partners, but the coolest part is they're investors as well. So they know the game. They've been through it and they see us, two aspiring real estate investors trying.
You were like 7 years younger than them. They're like, we see you as
a mirror image of us, what we went through. And they're like, if we're basically investing in each other, right? It's going to be a partnership, but we went down, we met them at their brewery, which was awesome. And they own the building, which is so cool. And then they have another partner in there with the brewery, but it was just cool to see them using real estate in a different way. They had like, it's a brewery, right? It's something different. It's a different business entity for them. And another stream they talked about, it was really cool. They started talking about pillars, right? So you think about a table and if you have the only way a table is going to stand up on one leg is if you have a really, really strong beam, but they talked about having different legs and each one of those legs is another income stream for them, and how they essentially diversified in a lot of different pools. One being their realtors, two their investors,
flippers.
They own businesses now too.
And they own businesses, yeah. They're really cool guys, and the best thing is that we found out is that we're really aligned, like in terms of just our integrity, how we want to do business, how we treat people, and that is a really, really important thing to do when you're going out and trying to find people that you're going to either take money from or give money to. You really want to be aligned
in your values.
Exactly. And it sounds like, I mean, we were just shooting the shit over some beers. Like, it was great. I thought that we feel like we're moving to the next step, and it's a good way for
to take your business to the next level.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, and it always, it's probably annoying you guys hear me say this, but your network is your net worth. And we've found this. We've been in each of one of our previous episodes, we've been recommended to join a mastermind group, join a local real estate meetup group. And we found that it's all based on your connections and your relationships. Like, that's what's going to drive your business forward. You need to build the team around you, but you also need other resources. Like, if I need to call someone to check my numbers and say, hey, did I run this property the right way? Hey, what would you estimate for rehab costs on this? This is what I got. Hey, do you have a roofer? Hey, do you have a plumber? Like, people, you'd be surprised how willing people are to give you their contact information. I always thought people like, hey, I'm definitely not going to give you my number 1 or 2 contract because that's my guy.
We always joke about that.
We always joke about it. And it is kind of a thing. It's like, unless you have a relationship with that person and they trust you, they're not going to give you their top dog.
Yep.
Because they don't want to mess with their business.
I think the point is that people really want to build teams, and we can go a lot further together in the real estate investing business. Syndication in general, people can go a lot further together. You can buy bigger deals, you can get bigger profits. And I think the real estate investing network of people understand that. So put yourself out there. You probably know way more people than you think when it comes to people that have money. Everyone comes from a different socioeconomic status. Everyone comes from a different background. I know I'm fortunate in some ways, and you're fortunate in other ways. I think that if you take time to write down a list of like 25 people, to me, I did that, and my list expanded to 50 people that have money that you might be able to partner with. And as long as you see eye to eye on things, you're giving these people a way to expand their net worth. A lot of people have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it. So don't act like you're going and asking for money. What you're doing is you're going and giving people an opportunity to expand and grow their investments. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We recently just had on RV and Dave, and they walked us through the process of private money lending. They haven't used any of their own money in recent deals, and they have a link on their Instagram that basically walks you through the pitch deck essentially that you should put together. There's also an amazing book, I believe it's called Raising Private Capital by Matt Faircloth.
I'm just read it
halfway through it. It's amazing, and it dives into everything. We're going to talk private money later in the episode, but I think it's important just to realize how important relationships are, and you can't do this thing by yourself. I don't care if you're a lone wolf, you've been running your own ship, like you're going to need to lean on people.
You're going to go so much further as you grow your team. Yeah, exactly.
You can, it's just going to, but you need, this is, I'm just saying, like in every sector of this real estate investing game, you need to rely on someone else. Like we can't be at every property when someone's doing the rehab.
No, it's a people game. You have to have the relationship, not just with your lenders. You have to have the relationship with your tenants. We sent, Dr. Joe Asamoah told us to send holiday cards to our tenants. We got texts from our tenants saying, thank you so much. And you know what's funny? I feel like that it's been a little bit of like a lift off of us. Like, I know they're only going to reach out to us if there's something that's really going wrong with the property. They're not going to nickel and dime. They like us having that relationship. So it's not just a relationship with private money lenders. It's building the relationship. Your tenants are your business
around you. Yeah, 100%. You think about like a touch point in a way. Like we not only did we send them a gift card, but we wrote a nice note, said, hey, thank you so much. We hope you
enjoy the property.
I know it's been a tough year for everyone. Like, hope you're healthy, safe, and next year brings you abundance.
And they got it like right after Christmas, in between the New Year. Everyone's a little nostalgic, right? But they sent us like this. Two of them sent like a heartfelt message back, like thank you so much. It's almost like they don't expect to get gifts from their landlord.
They're used to paying you. You just paid them,
and they look at you differently. They say, "Oh, these guys are like." They're in this bit. This is a business for them, and they care about us.
They're
not
good
just
people.
Yeah, they not just trying to be this scummy landlord that collects money every month.
Yeah, I think just realizing every room you step into, whether it's don't think you're better than someone else, and you're always every single day you're selling yourself.
We had that conversation with the private money guys. We said, there's no ego in this, right? And there can't be, because the ego, what's the quote? Ego is the enemy of, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but my point is that if you take the ego out of it and you really try to be abundant and grow together with other people, I really think there's only one option, and it's winning. So
couldn't agree more. So let's hop off our soapbox here for a little bit. And
everyone's like,
talk
can you
about,
guys shut up?
Can you guys shut up, please? But let's chat. So we had 4 submissions for questions/scenarios for this week that people needed help with or wanted us to spitball and talk on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we picked 4.
One of our favorites.
4 good ones.
4 good ones. So our first question was from Jacqueline and Rob Troop, and they recently purchased a property with inherited tenants. So essentially tenants were already living there when they purchased. They asked us, have you guys purchased a property with inherited tenants? What's your experience been like? Do you prefer properties without tenants, or does it not matter to you? Some investors boot them out right away, while others take advantage of having the unit occupied is the simple answer. But, Corey, can you dive into it a little bit? We inherited you, in your first property, you inherited tenants right off the bat.
I inherited, multiple tenants. And so long and short of it is that most of the times when you inherit tenants, it's not great, because you figure it like this. It's not all the time, but most of the time it's not great. And the reason is because if the landlord who previously owned the property had been running a well-oiled machine that was paying him every month and he didn't have to do a lot of work, he probably wouldn't be selling the property. But that's a him problem or a her problem, not a you problem, because you have the systems in place. You know how to run it. So your tenants might be used to a certain way of communication. They might be used to texting every month every week about stuff that, you may not need to fix. There may be some liability issues. So there may be things that come up with inherited tenants. I would say most of the time you don't want to inherit tenants, but this should not stop you from going through a deal. Like, this should not stop you from buying a property. Worst case scenario, you have them for 11 months and then you get new tenants. So in New Jersey, at least, you can't evict tenants. You can't get tenants out just because there's a new change in ownership. Like, their lease is binding and they have to go throughout their whole lease. So I don't know what state you can boot tenants. I haven't heard of that. I know in PA, New Jersey, that you cannot. So I'd say most of the times they're not ideal, but if you have systems to kind of effectively screen, effectively communicate, and operate your business, I think that, 2 out of 3 inherited tenants have been really good for me. I've had one that's been an issue, but the more I communicate with her, the more I talk to her about, hey, this is how I run my business. I'm here to help you. I care about you. I put a baseboard heater in her unit that wasn't getting enough heat. I think she looked at that, said, most landlords would just not really care about if it was too cold. Like the heat replaced it, right? The heat is working, but it wasn't getting hot enough for her. I think it's an older heater. It'll probably need to be an older furnace. It'll need to be replaced in the next 4 to 5 years. It's not working. But I said, here, I'll put this baseboard heater in that heats a 400 square foot apartment. It's a 1-bed. And she was like, wow, you didn't have to do that. Spend $400 to do it. So I'd say that inheriting tenants it's not a deal killer, and it shouldn't be something that you run from. In your worst case scenario is you either evict them if they don't pay, because that's one thing, they don't pay, or you wait till the end of the lease and then you screen tenants well by having them go through the credit check, the rental history, and their job history, and you kind of use your intuition about interviewing them. How do you feel about these people? And sometimes you're going to make mistakes, but more often than not, you have a good feel for somebody, it'll probably work out.
And don't be afraid. Say you go through the year and they're just not your ideal tenant. Some people just go for the money and they say, hey, I'm going to keep you around and I'm going to try it again.
But if it's a pain for you,
just get them out. You don't have to renew them. You literally do not have to renew them as long as you're not being discriminatory.
Violating any, exactly, discrimination laws.
And you can just say, hey, we're moving our business on. And so they don't need to know exact reasons why. Yep. And you move on. And I would say,
if your property is up to the standards where you don't have to have an HGTV property, but if your property is in working condition, it's newly painted, you have decent flooring, your appliances are working, the house isn't falling apart, there are renters all over the place. So I would not be afraid to say, okay, I bought a place in March, the lease is up in July, to say, it's time to move on. That being said, vacancy is the biggest killer of cash flow in rental properties. So you just have to weigh out your options there. I don't think it should be a one or another situation. I can just only tell you what I've experienced with tenants, with inherited tenants.
You may get an excellent tenant that you inherited.
We do.
And we'll dive into that. But as long as you have your processes in place, I see no harm at all in getting that tenant out. And just because then especially if you're starting out, I would say if it's one of your first like 5 properties, you want to go through the experiences of screening tenants and picking the ones you want for your business and training them. Hey, this is how we run our business. And it's just so much more of an ideal situation than going into a room where someone already has expectations. They've had things run the same way. And if they can't adapt to how you're going to run it, then there's some butting heads over the course of the...
And tenants can sniff out if you're a new owner, a new landlord. It happened to me when I first bought my first property. I could tell that they're like, this guy's never done this before. You can't avoid that step. You have to go through it. If you're buying your first, you have to go through it. But the whole point is, if you get in there, you have a system. Hey, this is how I collect rent. This is how you submit maintenance requests. This is how I handle maintenance requests. This is the amount of time that I'm going to get back to you in 48 hours. I have office hours. If you contact me on a Saturday and it's not something urgent, I'm not going to get back to you until Monday. It's okay to systematize your business like that. And if your tenants know by your effective communication, then you're going to be in a good spot. You're going to weed out the ones that are just bad tenants.
They're going to know, to your point, they're going to know right off the rip if you are serious, if you treat your business like a business, or if you're just doing this as a side hobby for passive income. Mm-hmm. Straight up. It's like we mentioned it in our lease. We had everything. We had everything written out in black and white ink, and we walked our tenants, our inherited tenants and our new tenants through. Sorry. So in our duplex, we had one inherited tenant, and then we had to go out and find another one. So even though we already had the one inherited tenant in there, we walked her through the lease until like, hey, this is how we run our ship. Yep. And it's been great. I mean, she's easy. Anyways.
She's awesome. Yeah.
We were a little nervous.
She's been there for 10 years. So
been there for 10 years. She's older, maybe in their 60s. And she also is getting assistance from Section 8. So
she treats the property like it's her, like she owns it.
She treats it like her home, but we were worried in the beginning. We heard Section 8 and we're like, oh man, like we've never done this. Mm-hmm. So, and it was the big looming Section 8 above.
The biggest problem with Section 8 is the Section 8 office, not the tenants.
They never get back to you. 10 emails to get a response. But you know what? Ryan and I are pretty persistent. So we showed up to the courthouse.
During COVID. There's an officer outside. He's like, you guys cannot be here. We're like, well, we're here. So.
Well, sir, we've called 47 times. Yeah. I'm going in.
And we ended up getting it worked out.
Yeah.
And in fact, with Section 8, you can raise rent once a year. Our tenant who's been in there, she understands a rental increase is coming. She hasn't had her rent raised in 6 years. So we're actually going to even have more cash flow. And she's cool with it. She's aware of it. She's like, I was waiting for this. I know it was coming, like that kind of thing. So we went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think the point is that it's effective communication. If you can talk to your tenants, you have to build rapport. If you build rapport and it still doesn't work and you're still butting heads, move on.
Don't be afraid of inherited tenants. It's going to be your game, right? Go in there with a plan, have everything mapped out, and make sure you treat your business like a business. Don't walk in and let them know this is your first time. You need to make affirmative steps and actions and say, no, this is what we're doing. Let's even talk about today when we were talking about they wanted to pay again. So we switched over to Rent Ready and they wanted to pay again on Venmo. And we're like, hey, listen, our investment group has changed their business model, and we're
i.e. Ryan and I,
aka Ryan and Corey, have changed their business model, and the new property management software is going to help you in XYZ ways. It's only $1 fee, and you just have to link up your thing. So basically, we just said, however we can help you, we're going to help you set it up because this is how we're moving forward. And they were fine with it.
And the stigma of landlords being scummy, and that resonates with tenants. Tenants automatically think that their landlords, all they care about is money. They're never going to fix anything. So if you change the game and you flip the script, these people are going to want to stay with you. That's the most important thing. Talk about vacancy. They want to stay there and they want to be long-term 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 year tenants. That's how you're going to make real money in this game. If you have turnover every single year because you don't fix everything, you don't effectively communicate, your place gets trashed, then you're not going to be a landlord for long.
No. And I will say, and not trying to give us kudos, but I will say we are very, very quick on the ball to address issues.
Yep.
Purely based on
probably too quick. Actually, we've learned that this is a tip for people. If your phone, we've trained our tenants to text us now if something goes wrong. Got that from the Stealthy Rich. If they call us, we typically don't answer on the first call. We let it go to voicemail. That way, because a lot of times tenants will call you and it's not really an emergency.
You're not on call.
You're not on call. It's not really an emergency. Let's say they call you, let it go to voicemail. If you get 2 or 3 callbacks, pick up the phone because it might be an emergency. Train them to say, hey, text me. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. And we had, even with the scenario with the gas leak, they had no heat. So we, from our phones, within 24 hours, had a new hot water heater in there without even speaking to our tenants on the phone. Maybe one phone call. I don't even really remember. But my point is that we were on top of it. And if you tell your tenants what you're going to do, hey, text us, we'll get back to you, and you actually do get back to them, they're not going to be calling you at 2 a.m. That's a myth.
They don't want to deal with the middleman stuff anyways. They're like, okay, Ryan and Corey, they're taking care of it. They got me.
Yep.
And it's communicating, being upfront, and not letting, when you get a text and you're like, oh, I got to really think about this response and get back. It doesn't work in the landlord game. You need to get back to someone efficiently in a way of like, don't let it wait.
You can
overnight.
do it for a couple hours. Yeah.
Right. But like, you can't let things sit for 3 days.
No.
You can't. You know what I mean? Like, and
it
then,
depends
I
on the
forgot to
severity,
reply to you.
right? Like if you can't let it sit for 3 days, but like if the heat's out in the winter,
That's what I'm thinking.
You got to
the
address
big things.
it.
They're the big things.
If there's a leaky faucet, we currently have a leaky faucet right now, and our handyman is getting in touch with the tenant. Something happened with our tenant where I think they had some sort of either it was a death in the family or something, and they didn't connect with them yet. But our handyman is going to schedule with our tenant when to go out there. And I've already followed up with him. So, that's a leaky faucet. If it takes an extra couple of days, they have a bucket underneath it. It's all good. But you just have to kind of gauge the severity.
You can let that last the weekend, right? Like if they hit you up on a Friday evening, hey, I have a leaky faucet. Okay, you're cool. You can handle that until Monday.
Yeah.
You can,
unless the leak is a flood, but
yeah,
you just figure that out.
Exactly. So, all right. So question number 2 came from Tom Rogers. Essentially, what Tom wants to know is, how do you deal with uncooperative real estate selling agents?
So what we've learned in this game is that not everyone is really that good at their job, right? Just in general in the United States, right? There's a lot of people who are not that good at their jobs.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing, but you can't expect everyone to be good at their jobs, and that's just how it is.
Or care.
Yeah, or care that much, right? They're just doing it to put food on the table, and good for them.
Mm-hmm.
If that's how they want to live their life. No judgment at all. But what we always try to do as investors is that we have a really, really close connection with our realtor, and our realtor is vouching for us. He is the type of person that will try to connect us directly with the seller. We want to build that relationship with the seller. Even if you have to go through the selling agent, you still want to have communications with the seller. A lot of times people think that you can't. You certainly can. You make an effort to do that. I just helped a good friend of mine, and we're gonna have him come on and do like an ultimate beginner's guide to buying your first house hack. I talked him through the situation where he is closing on a house hack, and he dropped a letter in the mail to the seller directly. Hey, my name is Mike. Just want to let you know I put an offer in on the property. Turns out we both went to the same college. He kind of did some research on it, and he ended up getting the place under contract. He was actually the highest bidder, so it wasn't a money thing, but I guarantee they opened that up and said, wow, this guy's pretty cool. Like, he reached out personally. Like, he wants to develop the relationship. So you can go around the seller's agent. You don't have to let that stop you. So I would say that based on, Mike's story, sellers sometimes they make emotional decisions, and you can significantly improve your chances of working out a good deal if you're making an effort to get to know them. I wouldn't count on your personal agent to help facilitate this, but if you develop a good relationship with an agent who is an investor themselves, which is key, they understand that you want to talk direct to the seller. So you can avoid this. I think that a lot of times there are ways around it, and you don't have to play 100% by every single rule. Just make a conversation and make it organic. Introduce yourself. Yeah, exactly. Organic.
So another way too is, and I think about this all the time, is like in one of my property that I purchased that I live in, we had an issue with the selling agent. He just wouldn't cough up. It came down to like $40. It was something crazy, and he just wouldn't cough it up. He like refused to cough it up. I'm like, and my agent couldn't do anything about it. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you're not going to be able to get me back $40. How are you going to be able to figure out the rest of this deal for me? So we just didn't end up using her again. She's a great person, but just like not the best agent. So that leads me to my point of, you want to find yourself a rock star real estate agent. And I'm not saying rock star just throwing it around that. Like, you want an absolute stud, male or female, that is going to have your back in any type of situation, and that, essentially, you're not going to have to worry about hearing if the selling agent is uncooperative.
They're going to bat for you.
They're going to bat for you. They're working the situation out, and if they'll give you a gift card for $50 if it really comes down to it. You know what I mean? So I think about this situation that Tom asked about, and it's like, you really shouldn't have to hear about, in my opinion, the issues that the selling agent is giving to you. If you picked a rock star enough,
your agent should be able to navigate that. That's their job, to navigate the scenario with the selling agent. What are some interview questions that you could ask to try to lock up a good realtor?
A couple things off the bat.
Yeah,
I got a couple things off the bat. So first off, in my opinion, you want a realtor that does this as their full-time gig. You don't want a weekender, a weekend warrior that's going out and trying to make a couple extra bucks by selling a couple houses. That's number one for me. Two, as an investor, you want another real estate agent that is also a real estate investor. That is huge. They've been through situations. They know how to run the numbers. They know what you're looking for. They know what you're looking for, but they know how to run the numbers. They know property types, and they know how to deal with different situations in order to give you leverage to make it an actual good deal for you. So a couple questions you can ask right off the rip is, A, how long have you been a real estate agent? Is this your full-time gig, or do you do this on the side? How many transactions have you done in the past year? I think that's a big one. Mm-hmm. If they've closed a couple deals over the last few years, they don't have relationships with a lot of different people. So in my estimation, you want people that have done 20, 30, 40 deals, as many deals as possible in a year. So that way, if you go back to this person, they're going to have a potential contract you can talk to, a potential private money lender, a potential title agent, like a lot of different things. When you're building your team, they can plug and play for you. If you find we're saying rock star, so you want to we're talking top of the line. Mm-hmm. Another question I would ask is, do you own any investment properties yourself? I know I said that a few minutes ago, but it's huge to go down this route, because you can not only bounce ideas between this person and talk to them as an investor, but know and have the confidence that when they go into the war room for you, that they're going to push this deal and only let you go through with it if the numbers work. And
that they would buy it themselves.
Exactly.
That was huge. Another thing is like, real estate investors that are agents look at inspection reports and appraisals completely different. They say, oh, I know a contractor. This is something you can get fixed for X amount. Where if you're buying your primary residence and you walk in there and there's mold all over the basement and your head's spinning, you don't know what's going on, it may be a $500 fix that a real estate agent that's also an investor knows how to do. So, I think that it's really important, what Rye says, to make sure that your real estate agent also invests.
Yes. And I'd also say, like, how often will we be in contact? When are you going to be sending me properties? Like, are you just going to get the simple MLS email? So basically, if you sign up with an agent and you give them their specific, what you're looking for in a property, whether it's location, price, etc., they'll set you up with the MLS, and you'll just get emails every couple of days with comps or like comparable locations that fit your desires in an email. And that's cool. And it's great to see, right? We're in 2021. Like, you want things on the fly digitized, but I want someone calling me and being like, yo, Rye, this is a great deal. Like, based on what you said, I think we go look at these two. And they're making a commission off you anyways, right? Yep. So they should want to drive their business forward, but also drive the relationship with you forward, so much so that you trust them, and you're like, holy crap, like, all right, let me send this guy 3 deals here, and he'll send me 3, and we bash heads and we meet in the middle, and we're like, all right, these 2 are the ones we should go check out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So let's talk about our agent. Like, we don't know names, but like, we absolutely love our agent. Just talk about how he went to bat for us on our first deal.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about our agent is that he told us straight up, he said, Ryan Core, if you guys don't buy this deal, I'll buy it. And what he's doing by saying that is vouching and saying, this deal is good enough for me to buy. And he puts his investors before himself. He says, I put all my deals out to my investors. If they don't want to move forward, I may decide to purchase one, but he's built relationships with sellers. So he doesn't even go through a lot of the off-market. He doesn't go through a lot of the listing agents because he has a lot of relationships with sellers themselves.
It may sound like BS, right? Like, oh, yeah, I put my investors first, or I would buy this deal, but like the point is, we called him on it, right? We'll play chess here with you too, buddy. Like we straight up asked him when going through the deal. It's like, why do you put your investors first? And he's like, listen, for me to make X amount off of you guys in this first deal, and then it's a one and done. Like you guys go have one deal and you walk away. That's not worth it to me. If you know that I would have bought this deal and I presented it to you first and I approved of it and I said, I weeded out other deals and I said, nope, these aren't good. This is the one you want to go with. I know that you guys are going to come back with me for future deals and we're going to be able to build a relationship that lasts for a long time, a lifetime relationship.
Absolutely. And we just told him, we said, our goal is to go 60 units in the next 5 years. I said, there's no reason why we're not going to go through you for every single one of those. And he's presented us with private money lending options. And the relationship has expanded once we got granular, and we also got to this level of integrity and how we really showed our, like, we said, like, this is who we are. This is what we want to do. Let's build this together. And I think that's a really important
and
piece.
You can get a vibe from a person. And I know this is just one of our qualities that we're good at. And everybody's not good at it.
Right.
But like emotional intelligence and reading a room and really getting a grasp on someone if they're bullshitting you or not.
Yeah.
I just think we're good at it. And it's hard.
But it's a skill.
skill.
It's a skill that can be built upon. And one of the things that I say on how to build upon it is just put yourself in these uncomfortable scenarios. Like throw yourself in a room with people who are other investors. Go to these RIA meetup groups. You're going to start to develop the skill set to talk to people because all these people are there to talk about the same thing. Once you do that over and over again, you can kind of weed out the people that are bullshitting and the people that are not there to help other people. So again, that skill set is not everyone has it, but you can.
It's something you have to work on every day. And like we get the question all the time is like, hey, or at least
get a sales job. That'll learn it. That'll help you learn it.
You are going to get told no every single day. You're going to want to run your head through a wall, but it teaches you. You can walk into a room. I firmly believe I can walk into a room now and talk to. I have a sales background. You have a sales background. Talk to anyone about anything. They call them IMI statements, and so it's basically when you go into a room and you engage in a conversation and someone mentions a little nugget to you and you think about a scenario that you've gone through in your life and you connect it to that.
Yep.
And essentially you relate right off the bat. It's like, oh, Corey, you went to Temple. Oh, that's crazy. I went to Temple. If you didn't, you have a friend that went to Temple.
Yep.
And you latch on there and then immediately they start to they open the door a little bit. And then it just allows a conversation. It's psychology, right?
Yeah, there's a distinction though. What you don't want to do is pretend like you know about every scenario and you have the answers. It's just about relaying your experiences.
It has to be real.
Yeah, relaying your experiences. But my point is that you don't want to say that you're an expert at everything. But what you do is talk about how your experiences may be able to help that person who's talking about it. And again, we got off a little bit on the psychology here, but it's so very important with the relationship that you're building with your realtor, the relationship that you're building with the seller to avoid the selling agent who might be a dud, right? Mm-hmm. And this is part of how you do it.
If you're an introvert, I don't think this conversation should scare you because,
no.
But it's true. A lot of people hear this like, oh, it's relationships. And like, I don't love talking to people. It's like, you can do your research and build a team from doing research online, but at some point you're going to have to get in a room and talk to people. Maybe your specific trait in quality is you're an introvert, but you're phenomenal at running the numbers. If you can present deals to other people, that is something you don't have to talk much. You talk to people, you put all the numbers on paper and they can really see your value. That might be a way in too. There's ways to use your skill set and show your value in different ways. But I will say that you're going to have to talk to people at some point.
Yep.
So just get ready you have to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. And be exactly. Because I was just going to say making mistakes is like, that's literally how you move forward. Like making the mistake for me, maybe not getting rid of a tenant when I was supposed to at the beginning. I ended up working out the relationship a little bit, but I should have probably just got rid of her when her original lease came up. And all I did was learn about how to proceed, how to move forward. The mistakes really push you forward. They really make you better. And people are afraid of them. I was too. but I'm not as afraid of them anymore. Like the mistakes are the things that allow you to grow.
Making mistakes and taking calculated risks are vital to success. I said it the other day in one of our episodes, but it's so true. You have to fail fast, fail often, fail forward. I think it is like it's so important. If you're perfect every day, how are you going to grow? You just you can't.
Yeah,
you're just going to think you're perfect.
It's just not a linear path, people. So the setbacks are actually it's like, one step back for two steps forward. So great.
I think that covered that one.
Yeah, it definitely did. So third question.
So what's the best?
This was from Jason.
Jason White. What's the best tactic to start investing if you have little to no money?
Yeah. So I talked about we talked a bunch here already about building your network and creating a vision board and then writing down. I say start with 25 people. We did talk about this a little bit already. The people that have money in your life, it could be an uncle, could be an aunt, could be a friend of a friend, could be a grandfather. And having little or no money, in my opinion, doesn't mean that you are broke. Because if you're broke, you may not understand how to manage the deal or manage the relationship or run the numbers. Get your own financial house in order. And that's what Diego says. Like, get your personal finances in order first. So you need to have some money in reserves to fall back on. We talk about house hacking though all the time. And I know it's kind of like we're repeating this, but if you can take 30% of the spending that you do on average every month and put that into your bank account, that ultimately drives you forward and gets the snowball rolling and rolls it faster and faster down the hill so you can buy more deals. And I think I can give an example of a friend that the friend Mike who's buying a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. He's living in the basement. It's a finished basement, but he's going to rent out the other bedrooms for roughly $2,000, and his mortgage is $2,000 is roughly $650 per bedroom. There's 4 bedrooms. He's living in one. 650 times 3 is somewhere around 2,000. I think it's 1950. So his mortgage is $1,800. He's going to be making, $100, $200 while living there. Where if you compare that to the most rents out there, you're spending $1,000 most of the time to rent. You just are. So you're adding that. That's $12,000 a year that you're adding to your bank account. And then you become the person that you don't have money you do have money. And you can get into these properties for little down. So that's one of the things ways to start investing with little or no money. There are people that have never put their own money in any deals. Like somebody like David Tupin, who we mentioned the other day, he did start with putting his own money in it, but he scaled his business just by using other people's money. We're not at that level yet, but I can feel it, the ball rolling a little bit. We're getting to that point.
It's going to, before I jump into the private money section, other people's money, I will say with the house hacking scenario, but tactic, you can put 3% down. That's 3%. So take like $100,000 property,
$20,000.
$2,000.
3,000, yeah. 3%.
3 that. Sorry, I was going 20%. So 20. If you put 20% down yourself, it's 20 grand, right?
Yep.
Oh, I don't have 20 grand. But if it's your first ever,
yeah, for 3% owner occupancy, 3.5 is generally what you can do.
So say $3,500.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's
if you don't have
$3,500.
This is not a knock on anyone who doesn't. If you don't have $3,500, you have to understand the finances of how much money is coming in each month, how much money is going out, and get that under control. Because if you don't have $3,500, I don't think you should be investing in real estate.
You need to have your financial house in order. B, you need to understand personal finance. And just in general of I'm not saying you need to go back and learn accounting, fully income statement, balance sheet, but that would help a lot. It would very much help a lot. And if you knew the basics, the 101, but really you need to know how much is coming in, how much is going out, and then how much you save per month. And if you can't manage your own internal personal finances, there's no way, in my estimation, in my belief, I would not recommend it, that you go out and buy a property. Even if you put 3% down on a $100,000 house, you still owe $97,000, maybe a little bit less than that, or a little bit more depending on closing costs.
Yeah.
You're still in the hole of that. And if you can't manage your money, it's going to not work out.
Well, we say you want to run your rental property portfolio like a business. Part of me treats my personal finances like a business because I know each month what I'm spending, what's coming in, what's going out. And if you do that, you can carry your personal finances into your business. If you don't have any control or you don't know where money's going, it's going to be tough for you to run a business. You're going to have clouded decisions. When you're strapped for cash and you don't have the money to pay for food each month or to pay rent, your decisions become very short-sighted in, I need to go get this money right now, this short-term thing. You are less likely to make investments in your future that money is going to grow for you because you don't have the capacity to think like that. You just, all you're thinking about is the next thing. So look, if you make $50,000 a year, my advice, and again, we're not experts here. All we're doing is like, how can we share what we've done? If you make $50,000 a year, you really shouldn't live on $47,000 a year. Some people live on 55 when they make 50, right? With credit cards. If you make $50,000 a year, people would look at that as an average income. Try to live off 30. Like if you can save, because that's like saving 40% of your income. If you can do that, you can become a millionaire. If you do that and invest in an S&P 500 account or invest in the S&P 500 at 10%, you can take 40% of your income, $20,000 a year, and duplicate it, compound it without even investing in real estate, and you can become extremely wealthy. It's all about living below your means.
Yes.
And again,
it's
did we get off topic with the question?
No, it's not. No, we didn't, because he wants to know how you invest with little to no money.
Right.
And you really do have to have your financial house in order, but just the basic knowledge and skills to manage your own personal finances, I think it's vital. We talk about all the time, just on the side, like you and I use Mint by Intuit.
Love it.
And it's just essentially a dashboard where you can preload or upload all of your accounts, whether it's your brokerage accounts, your 401k, your checking, your savings, etc. I don't know if they have crypto yet, but they
might be adding it. I'm not sure.
So you can upload loans if you have private loans out there too as well. So all I'm saying is it's amazing. It's essentially a big balance sheet where you can see the influx of cash you have per month, the outflux of cash you have per month, what you have saved, and then your investments that are accumulating over time. It's phenomenal. So,
it is.
And it's
you
not
can
gonna
see your net worth grow, and you're like, wow, these properties that I've purchased, they're appreciating. I'm paying my loan down, and you see this gap, and it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you're like, you build the confidence in yourself to say, I can go buy more deals because I have this spread. I can do a cash out refi, or I can do a home equity line of credit and pull some money out of your property. It just gives you options. So what I would say is get into a house hack, start paying your loan down, get some roommates, whether you're buying a duplex or buying a single family, get some roommates, start creating that equity gap. And then in 3 or 4 years, if you have a property that appreciates 20, 30%, which they do right now, you can even pull money out of that to go buy your next deal. So that's we can talk briefly on other people's money here if you like.
Yeah, I'd love to. We're studying this hard right now, just purely based on the next couple of deals. We don't want to use any of our own cash, and so other people's money. So this is OPM is the acronym that's used, but essentially other people's money is a term that refers to using leverage or borrowed capital to purchase properties. So many people, especially those first starting out, like we discussed, don't have the cash or potentially even the credit to finance their investments. So using other people's money is a way to pay for investments privately without using traditional financing options from a mortgage lending company or a bank. So essentially what happens is when you use other people's money, you'll deal with private lenders. They typically act as silent passive partners, and they don't have an interest in going and doing all the work that real estate investing entails, which we will do.
Yep.
So there are several approaches to this, like many different ones.
We posted a graphic about this too.
We did. Yeah. And I'm kind of going to go through the graphic a little bit just to explain it. But yes, I would definitely check out our Instagram at weeklyjuicepod for this graphic if you want to save it or share it, however you want to do it. But basically I think we touched on 6 or 7 ways to use other people's money in real estate. The first one is seller financing. So essentially with seller financing, it's when the seller of the house or the home maintains the mortgage instead of pushing it over to a financial institution, and then the buyer, you, gain the right to sell the property. So it's also sometimes referred to as owner financing. So it's essentially the seller just maintains, you're paying the owner of the property the loan.
Yep, exactly.
They're loaning you money, and instead of going to the bank, you're paying them.
And some owners want to do this because they want that passive income, but don't want to own the asset.
Right. So essentially with you paying them, they may say the bank charges I don't know, they're low right now, but say it's a 3% interest, 2% interest. A seller financing deal might be 5% interest, but maybe they charge you less up front for a down payment.
You can get in for, exactly. You can get into an investment property for 10% or 15% versus what the banks will offer is 25% for multifamily.
And that's an awesome way to get in early.
Yep.
With little of your own money. Another one would be a private money loan. So private money, we talked about probably at length here, but we're starting to really love it. But it's essentially private capital that can be raised from various sources instead of a traditional bank loan. So that can be from real estate syndications, self-directed IRAs, insurance funds, loans from friends, family, other investors.
Yep. It's generally like people that are close to you or you have a relationship with that trust you to help grow their wealth. Versus what you're going to go into next, hard money, where it's oftentimes an institution that you're getting lending from.
The cool thing with private capital is essentially like there's two ways that people typically go about the loans here. One is it's just a straight up loan where they loan you a specific amount of money and they charge you an interest rate, right? For a specific amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is an equity partnership, which I'll go into as well, which I'll actually dive into this right now, but it's basically a joint venture between you and the other investor. So the investor provides you with capital, right, to go in and buy the deal, but they take a cut of the deal. Now they're partners with you in the deal. So essentially cash is being provided in exchange for an equity stake in the investment over time.
I mean, we can give an example on that. If you have a $100,000 property and you have to put 20% down, you can do some sort of thing where an investor lends you the down payment and then you develop an equity partnership and you split the cash flow of the deal. There may be situations where they're the ones who are giving you the money up front. You're taking on the mortgage and then you get cut a piece of the cash flow every month. And so does the other investor who invested. That's a way to do it without your own money, right?
Right. You don't fork up any dough.
You have to pay the mortgage, but you're hopefully doing that with the tenant's rent from the cash flow every month.
Mm-hmm. So another option would be hard money loans. So hard money loans are similar to essentially getting a private loan, but this money is issued by professional lenders, or they work for companies that charge higher interest rates for shorter term loans. So typically a hard money loan will be used for a flipping project. So
or private money can be done in flipping too, or BRRRRs. But essentially, if you're looking at percentages, we have a chart or a graphic that explains this. Typically, it's probably like 12 to 15, even higher for hard money loans sometimes. Mm-hmm. So where private money, you can get 10 to 12, 13. Hard money is a little bit higher, 12 to 15, 16, 17, even 18%. But they're over short periods of time, so you can hopefully refinance, pull your money out of the deal. You have enough of that equity gap, and then you can pay back the investors in the time frame allotted. Yep.
So yeah, there's a bunch of other ways to use other people's money to invest in real estate when you're first starting out and if you don't have a ton of capital of your own. So definitely check out our Instagram, and we have a bunch of explanations and different ways to go about that. We also talk about it in previous episodes too. And I mentioned it before, but the book, Raising Private Capital by Matt Faircloth, is phenomenal.
Just to give people some episodes to go back to, David Tupin talks about other people's money. Jeffrey Holst, I believe, talks about other people's money a little bit.
Reynolds to Wealth
talks about other people's money. So I don't have the exact episodes, but if you can search them you can go through our Instagram page and we always have it in the caption.
Cool. All right, last question / scenario. This one was from Aaron Johnson. How are you dealing with the eviction moratorium in your state during COVID-19?
So we talk about the screening tenants as being so important, and the communication, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but all of our tenants understand that rent is still due, because if they're not paying, they're going to have to pay it in full at some point. So it's really about the effective communication. But I will say one thing here. I with one of the properties that I own without Rye, there was one of my tenants lost their job, and there is a state-specific emergency COVID rental assistance program that tenants have to apply for. And I imagine if it's happening in New Jersey, it's happening in states across the country. Maybe not every state, but there are a lot. So my tenant actually got approved for 75% of her rent for 6 months. This saved the relationship between me and her because I did not want to have to evict her, but I obviously couldn't let her stay there. I tried to work with her on numerous occasions. But so for the next 6 months, this is December actually was through May, 75% of her rent was covered, and all she has to do is come up with the difference. So that is one way that we're dealing with it, is looking into, there are so many programs available. You can do research, state specific, county specific, that are helping tenants through this time. But this does not change our long-term outlook on this. The eviction moratorium is going to go away. I hope every single person that needs the help, that they can get it, right? This is about, the COVID-19 is more about the health and safety of people than it is about the money, right? It's important to, I worked with tenants more than I thought I ever would, but the point is that we're still going ahead and understanding that these eviction moratoriums are going to come to end. If you cannot get your tenant to get on the same page with you, there is an option that's cash for keys. And Rye can dive in a little bit. If they refuse to, you may get some people that just don't want to work with you, and or they take advantage of the situation. They know that they don't have to pay rent right now, but unfortunately for them, you'll be able to evict, and you should be able to recoup all that money. And nobody wants to do that to somebody, but again, you have to treat this like a business and not a hobby. And you signed a contract, right? You both did. So what's cash for keys? That's a way that people can.
I love this option. We briefly touched on this in the previous episode, but essentially cash for keys is a way for a landlord to convince a tenant to vacate a property in exchange for an agreed upon sum of money. So it seems counterintuitive, right? Essentially you're paying someone to leave the property, but in many instances it's less expensive than going through a lengthy eviction process. In my estimation, if you spend anywhere from $200 to $1,000 to get someone out of your property, and all you're doing is saying, "Hey, listen,
$200 to $1,000,
$200 to $1,000." I'm willing to shell out $200 to $1,000 to get someone out of the property by just saying, "Hey, listen, if it's not working out, I will pay you this sum of money, and we won't go through any processes." And the reason I'm bringing up this amount of money is like, it's going to take you 3 to 5 months at some point to go through the eviction process. It takes a long time in some estimations.
And if they're not paying at all, then it's worth it. I think $1,000 is high, but it really depends on the scenario. Like, you can spend $500 and get somebody out of there, and it's totally worth it if you have a good property that you can fill immediately, right? Like, some landlords and some owners and some property managers will tell us never to do this. Why would you offer up your money to somebody? But I think it's all about the temperature, like how hot or cold is the temperature with your tenant. If you feel like it's something you can move through, then maybe you try to stick it out. If it's really bad, then you say, "Hey, look, this really isn't working. I'm going to offer you some money. Can you be out by the end of the month? You may have some cleanup to do." So,
well, we said in the beginning of the episode, vacancy is the truest killer of cash flow there is. So seriously, if you're going to spend, maybe it was a little high on the 1,000, but like, depends how you ran your numbers and what your cash flow is per month. But if you're going to have 5 months, someone not paying rent and not backfilling with anyone else, you're going to be losing a lot. You're going to have to pay the mortgage.
Yep.
So in my estimation, it's not that much to ask for.
The moratorium got extended too. So,
right. So 500 is the happy medium.
It is. And most tenants do know that they owe money during this time. So I hope those questions helped people out. We're always open to people DMing us and reaching out and trying to engage. And again, we don't know it all. We just feel like we want to talk about our scenarios and also reach into our bag of our investors. And we've asked them to come up with scenarios or some answers to the scenarios that we were asked. So I think it's really helpful to just share and spread the knowledge.
Yep. So hope you enjoyed. That'll wrap us up for another episode. So we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yes, sir.